Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to A-Level Maths live lesson. It's today's topic is the difference of two squares. So let's take a look at what this topic has to do with squares by imagining we have one square, and let's say it's a 5 by 5 square. Let's just fill it in. So imagine we have a square which is 5 by 5. So you can imagine the area of the square would also be quite easy to work out, and that's going to be 25. Probably need to make it a bit bigger, so let's say it's a 10 by 10 square, and that's going to give us an area of 100. And now let's imagine another square which is a bit smaller, and let's say it's just a 3 by 3 square. So let's say we've got a 3 by 3 square just on the inside of this one. And it's 3 by 3, so it's just going to be a little bit over halfway, so that's pretty good. And now what we want to do is say, if I took some scissors and I cut out the 3 by 3 square, then what would the area of the remaining bit of the large square be? So let's just put some of these words into maths. 10 by 10, so that square is 10 squared. The 3 by 3 square is 3 squared. So really what I'm asking is, if I took a square which was 10 squared and I subtracted a smaller square which was 3 squared, then what would be the area of the part that I've got left? Okay, have a think about that for a minute. Hopefully it's very, very easy, but just have a think. Just checking my settings for the microphone. It looks fine. Okay, hopefully you've figured out the area of what's left, so let's just try and visualize it. I've taken my ten by 10 square, that's an area of 100, and I've then taken some scissors and I've cut away the smaller square, which was 3 by 3. And just to make it easy, let's put some numbers here. So that's a 10 by 10. And this is a 3 by 3. And I've removed the 3 by 3. And what I'm asking is, what's this area that I've got left in grey? And hopefully you'll see that, well, it's quite easy to work out. You do 10 squared, take away 3 squared, and there's your answer, which is true. But is there another way that we could have worked it out? Is there another way we can see how to work out the remaining area? And whichever mathematician looked at this came up with a new way of working out the difference between the two squares. So we've got the big square, the small square, we're trying to work out the difference between the two squares. And rather than do 10 squared take away 3 squared, he or she looked at rearranging the parts that are left behind. So let's just draw a couple of dotted lines to help us. And going across. And let's just try to think of the edges now. So that whole edge is 10, and this square was 3, so this line would be 3 as well. So then this bit here would be the 10 take away the 3, so I can write that down just here. So I've got the 10 take away the 3, need a nice colour. So just to repeat, this whole line is 10, but I've taken away the 3, which was this bit, so that's 10 take away the 3. This little piece here. How wide is that? Well, this whole line is 10, and then this line is 3, so again that would be 10 take away 3. And now what we're going to do is we're going to see if I can do a bit of rotation. So I'm going to take this part which was in grey, and I'm going to move it across, and I'm going to rotate it and place it here. Now if I'd done that cut accurately, you'd see that it would be a perfect fit, and the only thing missing is that we don't know how wide that is. So let me just write down that that's 3 here, because this side is 3, then that edge here would be 3 as well. So let's try that again, and I'm going to try and do it accurately. So let's try this. And take it away and rotate it, and then place it up against here, and just going to cheat a little bit. If I'd done it accurately, you'd see that it's a perfect fit. Okay, great. So now, how does that help? Well, instead of having a funny shaped L shape, what we've now got is a perfect rectangle. We know this side is 10 take away 3. Well, what about this long side of the rectangle? If you remember, I said that this side here was 3, so that means that's 3 and then that's 3 as well. So I can write down that this is 3. This is 10, so together, all together, that would be the 10 plus the 3. And now, to get the area in grey, I would simply do the 10 take away the 3 times by the 10 plus the 3. So I could do 10 take away the 3 times by, and we don't really show the times sign in algebra, so I'm just going to leave that times sign invisible in your mind. So I could work out the grey area by doing 10 take away 3 brackets times by 10 plus 3. That would give me the area of the grey rectangle, which is the difference of the two squares. I could have got it easily by doing 10 squared take away 3 squared, but the same answer can be obtained by doing it the slightly longer way, 10 take away 3 times 10 plus 3. It's still the same grey area. I didn't add or take away anything to the grey area. So what that shows you is that there's actually two ways of working out the difference between the area of two squares. You can just do the big square, take away the small square, area. Or you can look at the sides of each square, and you can, after you reshape it into a rectangle, you'll see that the long side of the rectangle is the two sides added together, 10 plus 3, and the short side is the two sides taken away from each other, so 10 take away 3. Both ways will get you the same answer. So if I just work out 100 take away 9, that's your 10 squared take away 3 squared, that would be 91. And then if I do it this way, I've got 10 take away 3 is 7, 10 plus 3 is 13, and then 7 times the 13, that works out as 91 as well. So the two methods, they'll give you the correct answer. It's not that one is right, the other is wrong, but they'll both give you the correct answer. It's just one's a longer way of doing it. And the point is that by knowing this longer way, then we can use that longer way even sometimes when we don't know what the numbers are of the areas. So let's say I had a square which was x squared. That was the big square, and I was taking away a smaller square which was 5 squared. Then what this method teaches us is that you can work out the area of x squared take away 5 squared by doing this. You can just imagine your rectangle, and you can imagine that the rectangle has a short side, which is the difference of the two. So you've got x take away 5. And the long side of the rectangle, this one here, the 10 plus 3, in this case it would be the x plus the 5. So that's how you can work out the difference of two squares, even if one of them is unknown. And then sometimes, because we know your square you should know your square numbers quite well. So rather than write 5 squared, you might see a question, you might see a situation where you've just got the answer to 5 squared. So let's say I had x squared as the big square, take away the second square, the smaller one, had an area of 25. So then you would just think, okay, well, if x squared can stay as x squared, if the area of the small square is 25, then that must mean each side is 5. So you would just square root that in your head, and then you could say, right, so now I know I've got my short side, which is x take away 5, and my big side, which is x plus 5. And we can use that technique even if we have two unknown squares. So if we're doing x squared take away y squared, again we can know, once we reshape the rectangle, we know that the smaller side would be x take away y, and the long side would be x plus y. And if you weren't sure, you could check this by just expanding it out. So we've got x times x, which is x squared. This is just to make sure that you've got it right. With a bit of practice you won't need to even check, you'll just know the answer straight away. Then you've got x times y, which is xy. And then you've got y times the x, but that's a minus y times the x, so that's going to be minus xy. And then finally the minus y times the y, and that's your minus y squared. Notice in the middle you've got xy, take away xy, well that's just going to make nothing, so you can get rid of those two, and you're just left with x squared minus y squared, which is what we wanted. Okay, let's try just going one level higher, and let's throw in letters and numbers as well. Let's go with something like 4x squared, take away 25y squared, needs to be a square, sorry. So if you think about the two squares, the first square has an area of 4x squared. So what would the sides of that be? Well, maybe 2x times 2x, because the 2 times the 2 would make the 4, and the x times the x would make x squared. So we can write the 4x squared as really 2x times 2x. The 25y squared, what would the area of, well that's the area, but what would the sides of that square be? Well, think of the square root of 25, we've seen that already today, so let's say 5, and then y, so 5y times 5y, that would give us the area of 25y squared. So there's your big square, the 4x squared, there's your small square, and then we can just fill in the brackets now. So we take the big side, take away the small side, times by the big side, add the small side, and there's your difference of two squares. So this method is called factorising because we're putting it into brackets using the method of difference of two squares. Taking advantage of each term being the area of a square, and we can just use the two sides added and the two sides taken away to work out what the answer would be. Okay, just gonna see if you can try it now, so let me give you two very simple examples and give you a few minutes to work it out. So the first one is x squared take away 36. Can you factorize that using the difference of two squares? And then if that's easy for you, try a slightly harder one. 25y squared take away 100 t squared. As soon as you're done, just write your answer in the chat window. Okay, very fast, Aisha. Well done on that first one. Hopefully the first one wasn't too much trouble for you. Got x squared take away 36. 36 is a square number. Comes from 6 times 6, so the side of that square would be 6. I can do x take away 6, and x plus 6. Second one you have to think about a bit more. Be very careful with the side of each square in order to get the areas here. Okay, very fast again, mashallah, from Aisha. So here we've got 25y squared. The area is 25y squared, which means the square must be 5y. And then we've got the second square is 100t squared. So 10t times 10t must be the side length of that one. And then we're going to add to the sides to get the long side of the rectangle, and then subtract to the sides to get the small side, and that's your factorized answer. Fantastic. Okay, good. Hopefully that lesson was not too hard for you, just a gentle introduction to difference of two squares, and inshallah, if God wills, tomorrow we'll look at some harder examples. Join me again tomorrow. It's 9 p.m. Monday to Thursday on this channel. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you and the blessings of God.